How's it going, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It's time for Nick at Night, my weekly non-spoiler comic book review show. We don't have too many books to go through, but we're going to go over them right now, as we always do. Let's go ahead and put our grading scale up. So whenever I talk about a book, I'm going to put the cover of that book on the grading scale so you can see how they stack up against each other. And so with that said, we're going to go into Marvel real quick. We only have a couple books from Marvel, a couple books from DC, and then a few indie books to get through. So let's get into that right now. We have the Alex Ross Timeless Villain variant right there for Doctor Strange issue number 1. Now, I have not been reading Doctor Strange or Strange, the Clea spinoff, since Doctor Strange was murdered or dead for a little while now. So I have not been reading a lot of that. I read like the first couple of issues of each series, but the big question is, do you need to read those to get inside of this one if you're a new reader to the overall arc right here? And I would say the answer is no. If you have not been reading those, you would be just fine getting inside of this book, understanding where it's going, who the key players are, things like that, because it has a natural way of bringing you up to speed. Yes, you learn right off the bat that Doctor Strange was murdered and he has come back to life. You understand that Clea was the Sorcerer Supreme in his absence, and you also get a little hint, or you get some coverage about who was responsible for his death, or at least partially responsible. So that is really cool. So if you're new to this series in general, you can get caught up fairly quickly inside of here. As far as the issue itself, it's basically Doctor Strange going around creating his own midnight mission and catching up with all the different heroes and sometimes villains to see what he can do to help them out. He touches base with Spider-Man. He's got some kind of supernatural thing he's dealing with, and he touches base with a bunch of other heroes throughout the area, Luke Cage, She-Hulk, and so forth. So it's really cool to see him bounce around to the different people and getting an idea of what they're up to. You can see some of those conversations in here. I'm on the fence. I like some of the stuff I see, and then I don't like some of the stuff I see. So I could get, take or leave the art, honestly, in here. It does end with a little bit of a cliffhanger, like a little bit of a whodunit. Him and Clea, Doctor Strange and Clea get into a little argument, and with this other villain who might be responsible for his previous death. And so things kind of go a little bit too far at the end of this, and so we're going to have a big mystery arc going forward, I would imagine. So Doctor Strange issue number 1, good place to jump on if you're new to the character. If you haven't read the previous things, you can get caught up pretty quickly. So let me know what you thought about this one down below. All right, Jason Aaron on The Punisher issue number 10. Holy cow, man. This book continues to be one of the best Marvel books out there, issue after issue. Just when I think this book could not get any better, it just outdoes itself every single time. I'm loving this one right here. We have Maria kind of coming into her own. She's trying to understand more about her husband, what he's been up to. She has a little bit of memory lapse about what's actually going on. She doesn't know all the truth. She explores that a little bit in here. We have some more of our flashbacks that Maria is kind of narrating us through about Frank and how he was acting after he came back from the war. They have highs and lows in their relationship as a married couple, and she's learning more about him and about his true self, and it's explored inside of here as well. Then we have the Punisher going out and trying to finish this mission that he started so long ago to bring his family back, and so he's on his last mission right now, and he is surprised at the very end with some people that are very interested in what he's been up to lately, and that's been slowly, very slowly building up in the pages of Punisher and Daredevil, and I cannot wait to see where it goes. Honestly, I don't know if I'm upset or glad that this is not a big overarching event across all the different Marvel books, because I liked how self-contained this is, but at the same time, I want to know more. I want to see more. I want to see how the other people are taking this news and taking this fact that, like, Frank Castle has ascended to this next level, and I just wanted to get the treatment that it absolutely deserves, because I think this is a brilliant, brilliant run so far, and can't wait for Daredevil to come in and, give us some other context as well. But Punisher, one of the best Marvel books out there right now. In my opinion, you got to be reading it. All right, hopping over to DC, we have Superman issue number 2. Got that variant cover with the spotlight of our new character right there. She's also in the cover for A as well, so it's not like a first cover appearance or anything like that. It's like a shared key for that. But I just love that Zerdy cover, so I went ahead and picked that one up. So this one is really cool because it's exploring a villain called Parasite, which I don't have any personal experience with, but he's been in a lot of other runs. Coincidentally, I'm reading All-Star Superman right now, and Parasite was briefly mentioned inside of there. And then I read this book that same day. I'm like, what are the odds? that we have the same villain in both of those titles right there. Parasite is evolving. He's learning some new powers. He's displaying some new abilities that we haven't seen before. So traditional means of taking care of him are not very useful to Superman and the other members within his team. So I do like that new evolution, that new struggle, things like that in here. We have Lex Luthor behind bars. Again, very reminiscent of All-Star Superman from what I've read so far. We have a lot of similar things going on. We have Luthor kind of behind bars right now. Clark has actually taken over his company that he used to run, kind of begrudgingly at this point. He hasn't really accepted that responsibility just yet. But we have Lex basically kind of feeding him some information. Superman's really tuned in to Lex's voice, and so Lex is like, do what I tell you to do, and Superman, of course, is not going to do that, thinking it's going to lead into a trap, and we have Parasite slowly taking over the city, and we have all the different supers involved trying to contain that mess, and it's just a really cool book. I like it a whole lot. I'm not a huge Superman fan. I haven't read a lot of Superman, but this one's definitely got my attention. It's interesting. The art's pretty good as well. So check this one out if you're a longtime fan, and let me know in the comments what you're thinking about it. All right, then we're going to jump over to Mark Waid, Dan Mora, and Bond Villain on World's Finest. This is issue number 13 already. I can't believe it. We're kind of post-Lazarus right now, Lazarus Planet. We have some other one-shots hitting around here and there, and we have Batman versus Robin that ended recently as well, but we still thankfully have World's Finest because this was a great foundational book, and it's been really well written, very well drawn. Cool things have spun out of it, very intriguing stories, and I like just like the deep cuts that are involved here and the nostalgic feel you get when you read this book. So check this one out if you haven't yet. Another great issue right here, not only in the story, but in the art. And we're actually touching base on a character that I know little about. You longtime DC fans know all about this guy probably. Metamorpho is making an appearance in this book. We have a little touch base on his origin story. I don't know if it's been redacted at all or if it's been altered in these pages, but it's a pretty cool little origin story, and he's wrapped up in a murder mystery kind of a thing and becomes a suspect. And so we get to figure out what's going on in there. Of course, we have Batman and Superman both on the case trying to figure out exactly what goes on, and we have a pretty shocking conclusion to this issue when somebody's actually arrested for the murder of this person that I'll let you figure out when you read these pages. So World's Finest, again, another essential read, I think. It's not like in main DC continuity, as far as I'm aware. It's doing a lot of cool things, bringing on a lot of people that I typically don't see inside of DC Comics that often. Great little read, man. Mark Waid's killing it on here. What do you guys think? All right, that's it for the big two. We're going to go over into some indie books real quick. We're going to start with The Neighbors. This is issue number 1 from Boom Studios from Jude Ellison Doyle. If I'm not mistaken, I don't really remember some of her work, but the artist on here is actually the same artist for, I think it's House of Slaughter and Children of the Black Sun. So if you'd like that style right there, that kind of Something's Killing the Children-esque artwork, then I think you're going to enjoy this style right here. Of course, that beautiful variant cover is awesome, which is one of the reasons why I picked it up. So inside of here, it's a very interesting story. It's kind of like one of those new neighbors coming to a neighborhood, doesn't really know the people around them. This family is exploring them a little bit. It's one of those stories that starts at the end and then backtracks, and there's some questions about exactly what goes on that we're going to figure out as we get more issues in here. The family inside of here is an extremely progressive family, and it's very interesting some of the dialogue that they have in here, kind of like making fun of each other and things like that. So, if you're into that kind of stuff, I think you're going to like the representation that's in here. Then there's a mystery element on top of this with these extremely odd neighbors, like doing witchcraft in their backyard or something like that, and some weird people showing up unannounced and uninvited, and they keep repeatedly coming over and things like that. So we're having to deal with all that stuff. Very dark, very moody towards the end of the book. I think we're going to learn a whole lot more about the mystery, obviously, in the next coming issues. I'd say it was okay. It had to balance a lot of crazy stuff with the family dynamics and then the mystery and the spooky supernatural element they tried to introduce in here. I would have leaned a little bit more heavy on the supernatural part than it did to kind of keep my interest, because I walked out of the issue, I don't know, not really caring that much about the family at all. But let me know if you read it and what you thought. All right, the next book we have is from Sumerian Comics. We have Pop Scars issue number 1, and I got it because it was just such like a striking cover. I remember seeing the cover and going like, okay, there's some like badass chick on here. I don't know what she's up to, but she's kind of presumably on this revenge mission because she has this makeshift battle axe that she's made out of a bat right there, and she's got to be on some kind of a mission. I don't know what she's up to. Pat O'Malley is on the writing, is the creator for this right here, and I gotta say I was a little bit underwhelmed with this issue. It's basically like a retelling of like the Jaws creation story in a way. We had these two guys very close, very early on in the industry and film, coming up with like a Jaws type movie. There's a lot of betrayal and backstabbing between those two people as time goes on. One gets like super wealthy, one might not get the recognition he wants. The guy that gets all the recognition, like, I don't know, maybe turns on his family and kind of abandons the daughter. Daughter grows up regretting him or resenting him, and she's on this mission to kind of get revenge in here. But the whole mission she's on gets complicated when the former partner shows back up with some new information. So I don't know. I was reading it. It felt a little clunky. It felt a little like over the top. Like I don't see why this character would like dress like this and do this in the manner she was going to. Nothing really made sense in this book. So you know, visually it was okay. It's a cover grab for sure. If you're into it, when you read it, great. I mean, like, come on, even the first page is pretty gnarly. So, you know, it had some potential here, but the execution just didn't do it for me. You know, the art style didn't do it for me either. What'd you guys think of Pop Scars? Did you take a chance on it? What'd you think? We're going to go to Image Comics next with Vanish, issue number 5. Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman. This series in general has been a little lukewarm for me. I think it's got a lot of great concepts like Donny usually has. I think that I want to be more into the mystical realm. I don't really know how to say it. It's like they just slammed the gas pedal all the way down immediately, and they wanted to utilize Ryan's insane art style and like his ability to be super graphic to really push this book forward instead of like the story doing that and the art complementing it. And so I felt like it was a little bit misbalanced between story and art. This issue right here is by far my favorite issue of Vanish that we've gotten so far. We have our main character right now kind of like in a Highlander mode. He's taking on all these different bad guys and absorbing some of their powers, but he's kind of fading in and out of this consciousness, and he keeps waking up in this alternate, I don't know if it's like an alternate reality or a dream state, and it's all made up. And so this issue right here is him having to balance between the real world and this imaginative world that this foe keeps implanting in his brain. And the way that they transition between those two realities is just really cool. It's almost like this checkerboard effect that kind of fades across the paneling. And I absolutely loved it. I had a blast reading through this issue and like watching that battle, that mental battle that he has when he realizes that he's kind of sitting on the edge of each reality and he's trying to lean towards one, but he's being compelled to go to the other. This is a really cool issue. Probably my favorite issue by far. Issue number 1 is probably my second favorite issue. And the other ones have been kind of like meandering a little bit here and there, relying on the art to really make it awesome. But this issue was great. I love this one a lot. And so, yeah, my excitement for Vanish has always been kind of like in the middle. But after reading this issue, I'm a little bit more excited. But like, I'm trying not to be overly excited because I know this scenario is a one-off. And that's what really got me excited about this run so far. Are you reading Vanish? Are you reading Donny Cates' Substacks, Kids Love Change? If you are, let me know and what you're thinking about this book. All right, since we had so few books, I'm going to throw in this one as well. This is actually an advanced copy of Astrobots, issue number 1 from Whatnot Publishing. Now, I will say that pretty much everything else I've read from Whatnot Publishing has been pretty garbage so far, to be honest with you. But this one's actually created by Aaron Thompson, written by Simon Furman. I have no idea who those people are in this creative team, but nevertheless, we're going to go into this one and see what it's all about. Presumably futuristic landscape. We have these advanced AI robots, very much like Transformers, who go ahead of the humans and kind of build an infrastructure. You know what I mean? Like build cities, build whatever, and they make an otherwise hazardous environment livable. And so that's where we are right there. But these beings, these like Transformers, are not without their, you know, cultural problems and wars and things like that. And so we get to see a little bit about that inside of here. Each robot's built for a purpose, things like that. And we have an oncoming arc full of people that are going to land and populate this area that they've put together. So it's a little bit of like a race around the clock, you know. We have this grand opening coming very soon, but we have to like deal with all these problems that we have in our society, things like that. Can we button up everything, make it hospitable for our humans to come in here and you know, be able to live in this environment? So I will say art is very strong in this. I love the robotic look, and I like the city and the landscape and things like that. The story was pretty good. You know, I'm not extremely invested, but we introduced a mysterious character in here, which I want to know more about, given his backstory that they tell inside of here. So art's very strong. I would say that the story's okay. So, you know, if you're into like Transformer kind of books, if you like mechs, if you like robots, things like that, look for Astrobots from Whatnot. You might like issue number 1, so check that one out. All right, so that's it for me this week. I hope you enjoyed that video. Go down below in the comments. Let me know what your favorite books were down there. While you're down there, hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button as well. I would really appreciate it. But as always, happy reading, and I'll see you all down below in the comments.